Welcome to the Chief Aim podcast. This is your weekly dose of real experiences, insights, strategies, and action steps for entrepreneurs who want to build and are building something incredible.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Chief Aim podcast. My name is Sebastian Bates.
I'm Jason Graystone.
Today we are going to talk about habits. Habits is a bit of a buzzword right now, isn't it, mate?
It is a bit of a buzzword. And
everyone's talking about it.
They are. And I think we kind of wanted to do this topic because it kind of ties into last week's as well, right? On congruency. It's closely linked. But it's definitely a buzzword, mate.
So why is it a buzzword? And why? Here's the thing I've been pondering, right, with the word habits. People love to hear about successful people's morning routines. Right? And then you've got people on the other side who are like, they kind of have these jokes where it's like, wake up, do this sort of stuff, do that, and then I throw all that away because I haven't done anything today, and I don't actually follow any of that stuff, but I still run a successful business. So it's funny, you kind of got two sides of the fence when it comes to habits. But I think people are really interested in habits because they look at successful people and they say, if a successful person is doing that, that seems pretty basic and straightforward, and I could do that too, right? Yes. And so first of all, the most important thing about habits is their habits. You stick to them. It's not like a phase or a quick kind of fad. So when I look at habits, I look at layering. And I've got this concept of layering where it's more important to me, and I used to be the opposite of this. I used to just make massive change, and I was good at making massive change, right? I would change everything overnight. Boom, everything's changed. And probably in some areas of my life, I still do that. But certainly when it comes to habits, it's like introduce one habit. Your one habit could be as soon as you wake up, you put your trainers on and you get out of the house. And suddenly you're outside, and it could be a 5-minute walk, right? And then when you've done that for a couple of weeks, you can then increase it to half an hour, maybe an hour walk. Habit 2 could be you have your coffee after your walk. So you're delaying that first coffee. So you're letting your body have its natural energy levels, right? Once you've done that for a couple of weeks, add habit 3. Habit 3 could be you come back and you do 90 minutes of deep work after that coffee and the caffeine hits, right? And that's when you're most creative because you've been journaling on your walk and so on. And so for me, when I look at habits, I'm like, right, the layering in these habits means that you actually stick to them. And that's got the biggest compounding effect, right? A lot of people think massive change is the best thing to do, but that's often often what you need to actually kickstart something. But habits is what you do to actually maintain it. And often, you see people like New Year's Eve or whatever, right? Where they, New Year's Day, New Year's resolutions, they're like, right, I'm going to give up alcohol for a month. I was
going to say, yeah.
Well, instead of giving up alcohol for a month and then absolutely smashing it, in February the 1st, just drink a little bit less throughout the week for the rest of your life, right? Yeah. Or instead of eating more, eating less chocolate, eating no chocolate in January. You obviously like chocolate if that's going to be a resolution. So maybe just eat a little bit every week, but not a lot. Making small changes which benefit your life forever means you actually stick to it. Whereas otherwise, there's probably zero benefit to you to not drink alcohol for a month, come back in February and drink more than you did before because you missed it so much, right? Rather than making little changes.
Exactly. I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think people treat habits like resolutions, and it's like a means to change immediately from implementing the habit. And don't get me wrong, like there are certain things, like if you wanted to be an amazing golfer and you wanted to get better and better at being a golfer, then it would pay you to study the routines and the habits of Tiger Woods, right? And not just how he swings the club. I'm talking about how often he trains. How does he train? How does he structure his day? What's he thinking about before the swing, after the swing? Those types of habits that he's developed over a long period of time, they're what you want to kind of start adopting one by one and build into your life. But the truth is, everyone runs their whole life on habits. So you're doing habits from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed. What way you go to work, what radio station you listen to, where you have your coffee, how quickly you drink your coffee, what paper you pick up or whatever, right? All of these are habits. How you check your emails, how you close down your computer at the end of the day. Yeah. They're all habits. And there are certain habits that will have, all habits have basically compounding effects. So you might become very fast at shutting down your computer because you do it in a certain way. You might become very efficient at getting to work because you go a certain way, or you might be very good at typing because you type every day. So habits all have compounding effects, and there's some, and that means that it can lead you down, to where you far away from where you actually want to be, or it can get you very, very close to where you want to be if you implement the right changes. Yeah. So it's about long term again, and it's about looking at your daily life at the moment and going, what habit is moving me and congruent with my goal and where I tell people I'm going to go? Okay, well, that one's not. Smoking isn't, drinking isn't, watching Netflix for too long isn't, right? And instead of just ditching it, you go, what habits would move me towards where I want to go? And you basically, everything's a trade-off. So you then just mirror them, you match them, and you say, well, okay, well, I can do a little bit less of that and a little bit more of that. And I can do a little bit more of that and a little bit less of that. And you slowly cross the habits over until you don't even see them as habits anymore. You don't think about them, because no one thinks about habits until it's so in a compounding zone where you go, oh, I've got to stop smoking, or when it's got to stop drinking, I've got a hangover for 2 days.
Yeah.
No one ever says, I've got to stop running because I'm so fit now. So you have to kind of you have to be aware of that trade-off, and then have a strategy and a plan for changeover of habits so that you can continuously keep on track to where you want to go.
Yeah.
That's
one of the things you said there is really interesting. The word slowly, right? Like, I said about massive action and everyone wanted to make a sudden change, and it's like, just slow down these habits, slow it down, and just be like, right, I'm making this change. I'm just going to gradually do it and see what then happens. A lot of people listening to this will be like, oh, I've tried these habits, I've tried those habits, I couldn't actually stick to them. Either the habits were against what your values or what you actually wanted, or B, the habits was too much too soon. And so I look at this great story I've heard of a personal trainer who had a client who could never stick to going to the gym. They were like, oh, I've never managed to stick to going to the gym, right? And he was like, right, well, I'm gonna help you fix that. So every single day, the client would be told they have to go to the gym, get changed, get ready, go to the gym, and they'd spend 5 minutes there just sitting down watching everyone at the gym. They weren't allowed to join in, right? And after 5 minutes, they have to leave. So they went to the gym, and they sit down in their sports kit. You can just imagine it, right? After 5 minutes, they leave the gym, and the first time they're like, what a waste of time. After a couple of weeks of doing this, they are itching to do something at the gym. So the PT says, right, in those 5 minutes, you can now do some squats, you can do a little bit of bench pressing, some basic stuff. That's it. You've got 5 minutes, so you can just do a few sets. So they do those few sets, and then they almost getting into it, and then they have to go home. By week 3 or 4, he said, they're begging him to do 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. He says, right, now we'll increase it 10 minutes. 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And so every week we add on time, add on exercises, and suddenly this person's completely hooked on the gym. And the reality is, if he had said at the very beginning, now you're going to do 30 minutes every day or an hour every day at the gym, they wouldn't have done it. But if you gradually increase it bit by bit by bit, so you almost leave yourself like wanting to do a bit more, it's got to, if you're struggling to stick to it, then it's got a really powerful impact on your mindset around that thing. Leaving yourself wanting to do more gives you that little push of actually sticking at it longer. And so, I think there is something to be said about rushing into something too soon. And yes, sometimes you feel so motivated, you want to just go out there and do it. But other times it's like actually pacing yourself a little bit and leaving something to want is really good. Like you and me, we could do these podcasts every single day, right? Because we just love it. It's good fun. We have a good chat and a good laugh. But knowing that we only meet once a week to record these, it's like we really look forward to it. And it's like, it leaves us wanting to do more. Like after this, we could probably film another 3 or 4. Right? But we're like, right, we'll wait till next week and we'll do more and more that way. And it becomes a habit. And now we've been doing this for several weeks. And it's just very habitual for us, to meet up once a week and have these conversations. And I think that's the way to do it. Build habits into your life, which are business focused, health focused, family focused, relationship focused, social focused, wisdom and education focused, whatever it is that helps you move forward, not over the next month, but over the next year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, right? And eventually you become someone. You don't just go through a quick fad and you're there. You become someone who's done that for 5, 10 years, and you're now a whole different being, right?
And it's important that you do it slowly, because habits, you don't know you're doing habits. Habits should be unconscious.
Yeah.
It's unconscious. It's not something you're aware that you're doing. So in order for it to get there, you have to do it really, really slowly until it just becomes, oh, right, yeah, I just do this. And they go, how do you do that? And you go, oh, I never really think about it. I just do it. That's when it's a real habit. And a great story, like by the way, if you're listening to this and you want a book recommendation, I can highly recommend a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And it's about this concept of small incremental changes. But the story that I always love is David Brailsford for Team Sky, or the cycling team, right? 110 years, they'd never won Tour de France. And this guy comes along to manage the Sky team, and he doesn't focus on like pulling in line and doing all the stuff that most, like what they thought the coach would come in and try and make a good name for himself. What he focused on was comfort in their pillows, comfort in their gloves, air pressure in their tires, the hand soap that they used, tiny little 1%. I think he called them marginal gains.
Yeah.
That year they went to the Olympic Games and took 60% of the gold medals, and then they won Tour de France year on year. And it was just by implementing those tiny small habits. How incredible. I mean, you can't argue with that, right?
I love that. I think that's, I always say to my team at the Warwick Academy, I'm like, 'cause, one of the things I do is I come up with new ideas all the time, and, I'm like, let's do this, let's do that. And, an idea could be seen as massive action, right? And so I always say to everyone, look, I'd rather here are 5 ideas I've got, rather than just doing all those changes, let's absolutely iron out one idea and turn it into a habit. So we just do that as a team all the time, and then move on to the next one, then the next one. A good example of that is a bridge, right? So if you see a habit like a bridge, it's not really a habit until it's completely built. A bridge that's built 99%, you still can't cross, right? So if you kind of view a habit in the same way, how many 99% bridges have you had massive action to build in your routine, and really excited massive action, and then you never really followed it through by cementing it over a 6-week period? Whereas if you took time on building that bridge, it would. And so I think that's a good way of looking at it. What habits have really stuck for you, and what habits haven't? Because I've got a few that have not stuck, and I've got a few that have. And I guess it would be important for me in order for authenticity, to say that I am the opposite of the person I'm explaining about dealing with habits, right? Like, for me, I'm the massive action guy, right? So I'll drink a cup of coffee and be like, right, let's go do this. We're going to change everything overnight. And for me to not do that actually in my life, I need accountability, right? So I've got a leadership team within the Warrior Academy who are like, all right, let's not change everything overnight. Let's just change a couple of things, and let's not give everyone a heart attack in the morning when they rock up at the office at 9 a.m. Or I've got an amazing trainer, Tom, who he'll hold me back a lot of the time. I'll be like, I can do another 5-10 kilograms on that deadlift. Let's go. Let's just smash it. Sometimes you wake up in the gym and it's like, you're on top form and you want to absolutely go for it. And he'll be like, yeah, this is his hand signal, right? He's probably listening to this right now. He'll love this. And it's like,
shout out to Tom, by the way. He's incredible. Like, if you're ever in Dubai, go and check out Tom. He's an awesome trainer. And
the first thing Tom will do is just say, wait, it's not the time yet. But it's what you need. Someone in your life who's just like, you don't need to just go 120% on your deadlift today. You've hit the right numbers. You're doing it the right way. We're gradually increasing that amount every week. We're on the right track. Because what I was often finding was when I was training on my own, I was getting more and more injuries, right? So
injured, yeah.
Like I was lifting heavy and hard, but I was like, suddenly I'd have a back injury or a shoulder injury or a knee injury or whatever it is, right? And it's like, when you have someone who's holding you accountable to making the right decisions, it's the right way to do it. And I think a lot of that comes down to knowing yourself and knowing where you need accountability. Some people are the opposite. They need massive action accountability. They need a mentor like me who's just like, right, let's just go for it. Not me, but anyone, right? Who's just really good at like saying, now's the time to put your foot down and really go for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need someone who's the complete opposite, depending on your character. So it's really finding the right accountability for you I think, in different areas and spheres of your life, which help encourage you to stick to those habits.
Yeah. But ultimately, the goal is to not introduce habits so drastically that they become something that's not sustainable because it's such a upheaval and uplift in your life, and it's disrupting your life, and then you're not going to stick to it, whether that's losing weight or training harder at the gym or whatever it might be.
I've got a great recent example, actually. I've got a great recent example where I was like, right, I'm gonna smash all these habits at once, right? And it was a nighttime routine I wanted to try. And this, in classic kind of Seb Bates style, I was like, right, nighttime routine, here's what it's going to be. At 5 p.m, we're going to turn all the lights off in the house, no screens, nothing at all, no food after 5 p.m, everything's like, put candles on everywhere around the house, there's only candlelight before we go to bed, all this sort of stuff. And for a week, it was amazing. The kids were happy going to bed really early. It was a very relaxing atmosphere. I felt like I was completely distanced from work in the evenings. It was so nice to do that. No TV, none of this sort of stuff. Then after a week, it was like things started slipping. And, my wife's obviously very patient in order to just be like, cool, let's just change everything overnight for a whole week. And we kept it up for like 7 to 10 days. And then we were like, actually, we did too much too soon. If we just started to gradually introduce, no lights after 6:30 p.m, just candle lights or whatever, so your eyes kind of adjust to the darkness, and you maybe don't watch TV in the evenings, or just one of those things, we probably would have stuck to it for longer. I mean, it probably would have benefited our sleeping patterns because of that. But because we did too much too soon, it was like, bang, changing everything. And suddenly we didn't stick to it, right? Whereas the morning routine I do, when people look at it, they're like, oh my God, do you do that much in the morning? Like, what's wrong with you? But I didn't my morning routine at the moment is, wake up at about 5:30. I walk the dogs for about an hour and 20 minutes. I stop at a petrol station on the way to get a coffee. I then get home, put on a weighted vest, and I walk for another 30, 40 minutes. So I've done about 2 hours of walking. After that, I have a shake. And then I tend to do about 30, 40 minutes of deep work, right? For a lot of people, that is just an insane thing to do every single morning that early. But I didn't just do that straight away. I started off with a 20-minute walk, 30-minute walk. And I needed a coffee to get outside. I'd wake up and I'd be like, I need to have a coffee first. Cool, start with that. And then maybe switch to decaf or have half the coffee. And then you do your walk or force yourself to have a coffee in 20 minutes after you wake up. And just watch what happens and slowly introduce. And you'll be amazed at what you're capable of sticking to long term.
This is a quick shout out to the sponsor of this show, Shield, who help us deliver this podcast along with all the social media that goes with it to help us get it out to more people, which leaves us to focus on just creating more great conversations. If you want to start, delegate or optimize your social media or podcast, or if you want to build your very own online course or program, get in touch with the team at shieldglobal.io. A lot of the habits that you have are you telling yourself that you need it because it's something you've always done. It's just like, I have to have a coffee in the morning. I have to have a coffee in the morning. Why? Who's saying that? Like, try having half. Try and have a quarter. Try having decaf, like you say, if that's something that you feel will benefit you. But also, just because you do that, Seb, and now you've implemented, and even with a weighted vest, right? You're still building that into a habit of expanding that to the walk. So you're not even doing the whole walk with a weighted vest, and you're slowly building that in.
I mean, that's a great example, right? I've got a lot of ankle injuries. So if I was doing the whole hour with the weighted vest, I'd just be like completely injured the next day. So I've got to be slow.
And you'd never want to wear the vest again.
Yeah, exactly. Start from scratch.
Yeah. So just because you're like, if I want to be an entrepreneur like you, it doesn't mean I have to have that same routine. Like you have to make it work around you and what you enjoy, what's going to move the needle, but as well keep you rested and energetic and managing your family. Everyone's got different amount of kids and all this kind of stuff. So it doesn't mean that you've got, like, if I want to be that person, Elon Musk, what's Elon Musk's morning routine? Who cares what Elon Musk's morning routine is? I don't care. Like, he's a great entrepreneur. Yeah. Lots of people want to be like him, but it doesn't mean you've got to do his flipping morning routine. And so going to my, like, questioning me on what's work, what's not work, how we started this podcast was kind of this habit thing is like, it's like faddy. It's like a buzzword. And what I would say doesn't work for me is all of the kind of affirmation stuff, the journaling stuff, the red light sauna stuff, the cold, like all of these things that you see certain people do, I just get up and work, right? Now, there is certain things that I do in terms of fitness, and I have my fitness habits and stuff like that. But in terms of work, the way that I work, and people often say to me, like, don't you ever work?
Wakes up at 3 a.m., has 1 liter of instant coffee.
Yeah, some people say to me, I know you're a busy man, right? And some people say to me, don't you ever work? And what I see is me doing very focused, short bursts of work that are extremely productive, that then allow me to have big periods of time to do what I want, my habits.
And they're typically high pressure, right? Like I find the more and more I grow in my business, the kind of volume of work tends to go down a little. I give you stages where it's high volume, right? But in general, the volume's gone down a lot. Like I've gone from doing a lot of the technical delivery, teaching 35 classes a week, to not teaching at all. But now I'm doing other stuff, and it's like the volume goes down, but the pressure goes up massively. Yeah. Like I could have 1 hour of work to do that day, but it's on the radio speaking to 4 million people, right? Or it could be that I've got 30 minutes or an hour or whatever to write something, but it's an email pitch to an investor in Saudi Arabia about launching over there or something, right? And it's like the things I do, they've got to be faultless because they have such an impact. And often it's as mentally straining as actually doing like 35 classes and working 90-hour weeks, right?
Yeah. So things that I'd say do work are, think about all the things that you do in the day, and maybe your lunch break or your lunch hour or your commute to work or whatever. Can you walk some of it? Can you listen to an Audible book on some of it? Can you educate yourself on some of it? Can you basically train your mind and your body, right, by doing your daily routine? Yeah. And the more you can introduce into that, the better you're going to become as a person, honestly. Yeah. Some habits that are good is, if you're in business, everything you do in your business, start getting into the habit of recording it. So then you have training, and then you offer that training to someone else, and you train it once, and you get a lifetime return on that because you never have to do it again. And that is a massive habit. Like if you get into the habit of recording everything you're doing, Loom videos,
one of the biggest complaints, right? One of the biggest complaints of business owners is having to teach other people new things. In the Warrior Academy, we had about 5 in our team. We had about 20 in the team at the time when we did this. And we said to the whole team, write down every task you do in your job. And there's about 30 tasks each, right? So that we're talking like 500 to 700 tasks. And then I made a 3-minute video teaching everyone how to make a 3-minute video on Loom, right? How to do it, every video has to be under 3 minutes, every tutorial. And it was like, here's how you do it. Here's the way in which you speak. Make sure that you do this with your cursor. This is over here. You have everything ready. You understand what you're about to speak about, and you've practiced it, right? And then I was like, send that out to everyone. Everyone learned from that 3-minute video. And then in one day, we had 700 instructional videos on the whole company of how to run the whole business. Overnight, we had a training manual. It was like, bang. So if someone ever left, it'd be like, here's 30 videos of how to be an admin. Here's 30 videos of how to do sales. Do you know what I mean? And it's so that Loom is a great example of a habit, right? Just get into the habit of doing it. You don't need that massive action day that I spoke about. What are the top 3 habits that you've ever implemented in your life? Like if you had to look back and you had to come up with 3 looking back that you'd just be like, that's been a game changer. What would you say it is?
First of all, is reading. That is truly one of my, setting aside a time to read books, read from people who dedicate their, put all of their life's work into a book, I think is one of the best habits you can develop.
So how often do you do
ideas,
that?
And essentially every product that anyone sells is a result of education in themselves. So the way that you make money in business is developing products from learning from people. So everything I teach and sell has been in a book somewhere, right? And I've kind of put my own spin on it. So reading is definitely the one of the most powerful habits you can do.
How often do you read?
Every day.
Every single day. What is there a certain time? So how is that built into your daily habits?
So in practicality, there'll be on my days off of walking, I'll read a couple of paragraphs every day, and on my days of walking, I listen to Audible, and that is just sometimes that's half a book.
Yeah.
So just as long as I keep reading, that's something that I've done every single day since I was about 23. So that's
wow,
that's a great habit.
Amazing.
Second is a fitness habit, right? In my daily routine, I have to do some kind of exercise, and that keeps my mind in gear. It keeps me feeling good about myself. It sets my standards of everything else in my external world, if you like, because I believe that your standards are a reflection of your standards on your own body. I truly believe that. So that, and a third one I would have to say is forcing myself to be uncomfortable and take risks. So talking to cameras, talking on a stage, really just pushing myself, making a habit of agreeing to things that are outside my comfort zone. And I don't mean that in a way that's kind of incongruent to what we spoke about last week. I'm saying it in a way where it aligns with what I want to do in my mission, but it's just a little bit of a stretch and something I feel uncomfortable doing. And I make a conscious effort to sign myself up to things that I get a little bit of imposter syndrome over, because that's how we grow. So those would be my three, definitely.
I think that's brilliant. It's while you were saying those three, I was trying to think of my three, and I'm like, this is actually a really tough question because I've got so many things that I do, and you kind of made it a broader thing than just a habit routine, right? When you start talking about taking risks more and showing up here and there and doing that. So it's difficult for me to say what would be my top three. I guess from a very practical daily point of view, I would say walking as soon as I wake up had a profound impact on me.
Right.
Both in increasing my need, keeping my body fat low, helping with mindset, with mood, with energy throughout the day. I'm the most creative when I walk. I tend to journal just naturally while I'm walking. I used to listen to audiobooks while I do it, but now I just write all the time. I'm just writing for like 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like empty my mind on paper. So walking for me is definitely one of the best. Daily habits.
You've got tangible results from that, right? So you can say that that's one of your best habits. Like I would have said sleep, but for instance, I don't know how much that's improved my life by, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I go to sleep at
and you got no choice, right? Like sleep's not a choice.
Exactly. I go to sleep early every night, and some people say I wish I could get to sleep early, but I kind of take it for granted.
Yeah,
I go to sleep early. I don't know how that affects my life.
Yeah, right. I would say the habit of eating the same thing every day.
That's a good one.
Do you know what I mean? It's like I have the same shake every morning, and if I don't have it, I'm a bit like, the other day we ran out of chocolate protein powder. I had to use vanilla, and I was like, this is not this. I was speaking to Vicky, and I was like, the day is wrong. The day is wrong. Again, it started off wrong.
Do you know what?
When your habit's so cemented.
I take that for granted as well, because I really don't mind eating the same thing every day. But a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people are like, I just can't eat the same thing. And I'm really grateful that I don't care, because I think that that's something that really does benefit you.
I mean,
I love just eat the same thing every day.
I love food. I love going out for nice meals. Dubai's brilliant for that. If you live in Dubai, because it's a big cultural melting pot, right? You can go and have the best food from around the world here. It's amazing. So the evenings tend to be quite varied, right? But during the day, it's like the shake in the morning, and then when I come back from training, it's like eggs and veg, and then in the afternoon it's like some sort of meat and veg, and then in the evening it can vary, but it's typically around that, right? It's just the same thing every day. And just by doing those two things, the walking habit and the food habit, you're going to be in good shape. Like even if you might not be absolutely ripped because you're not lifting weights, but you still wouldn't be overweight and you'd still be healthy just from those two habits, and they're so easy to do. And so I'd say those two. The other habit, if I was thinking more big picture, is I would say seeking mentors in every area of my life, right? And I've really got a habit of doing that. It's benefited me so much, because you always pay for something in one way or another, right? You're either paying up front for education, or you're paying in the long run by missing opportunities and in time. So mentors have a massive, an impact on that one. Another one I would say is I'm very conscious to put my phone down or put the work down when the kids come in. Like if my kids came in right now, I hope they don't, because it's almost 7:00. But if they came in right now, I would just stop everything and just talk to them, because I don't want them to ever be in a position where they think that I've chosen work over them. And so I deliberately don't put myself in that position. Like I'll just plan the work. If I've got important work to do and I know the kids are around, I won't do it here. you know.
Yeah.
So that's a habit of mine, which I think if I didn't have that habit, I'd look back with regret and be like,
definitely.
I wish I just, you know, because it's only a matter of time until kids pick up on the fact that your work's more important than them, right? And so that's one of the other habits there. I would definitely say.
We got a rule at the dinner table: no phones, no technology, or anything like that. And we've always had that rule. And I honestly believe that my kids have grown up better because of that rule. And we've got a good relationship. They talk to us and all the rest of it. So that's a great habit. Yeah, for sure.
I totally agree with you. The other habit is a Tears of Freedom habit. It's just managing finances. And I know that sounds really strange, but it's like every day I check in on my finances across all the companies, across everything I do. It takes me 20 minutes to do. I do it every single day. I know exactly where we are, where we're being, where we're going. Everything I do is very predictable. I've got one rule, which is no surprises. And I have that within the business and within my own sort of personal finance as well.
Great rule.
And it's like, I've thought about everything. Like if something's going wrong or gone wrong, I've already planned for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you're not reactive, right?
No surprises. Like I could lose everything tomorrow. No surprises. I know exactly what I need to do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a real calming, you know, Jedi master trick, because you just kind of sit back and you're just smiling a bit as life goes past without stressing about the things that everyone stresses about. And if you do the Tears of Freedom course, like I've done, you know, and shout out to that course, because it has just changed so many lives, and it is just incredible. You know, you're in this position where it's, you do the basic principles, and anyone in the world can do it, right? And you have a buffer. You check in with your finances. You do the certain things, and it's just they become habitual. And once you've done that, you're in a better place to make better decisions with your business, with your personal life, with everything in life, and you become a better person as a result. And so you know, it's interesting how people think about money and finance is totally separate to them, but it's such a controlling factor in their life, which is probably another podcast. We should do a podcast on expenses.
Definitely another podcast. We'll talk about expenses. Mate, just to finish off, I just want to, one more habit that springs to mind that I think is going to be maybe beneficial to people who actually listen to this podcast and get value from this. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you're struggling with some aspect of business maybe, or you're trying to grow and develop your business and what have you. One habit that I would say you should probably adopt is just always say no. Like literally make no your default answer. And what I mean by that is what we was talking about last week, congruency. When people come to you with ideas, can we meet for a coffee? Can I pick your brain? Can you do this? Can you do that? Just say no as your default answer. If someone invites you to a party that you don't feel inspired to go to, absolutely not. You know, just say no as your default answer, and then use that time, like bank that time as if you would have done it, and spend that on these new habits or implementing these new habits. And guess what?
That's cool.
If you say no as well, guess what? When you say yes, it's a nice surprise. So you can actually say no to something by default, and then you get off the phone, and then you go, oh, do you know what? I've finished this work a little bit early. It'll be good to go for a couple of hours or whatever. And you ring them back and you say, do you know what? I've moved some things around, and I'm going to come. And then they think, wow, you've moved things around.
Under promise, over deliver. That's incredible. They turn around and say, too late. Someone's taken your spot. But so
there's nothing, like there's no downside to saying no first. Just say no to everything. People
but there's a massive downside of saying yes first, because ultimately what you can do is you talk about congruency, right? Like in our last episode, and it's like you can start to let people down and be known as the person who flakes. That is something I absolutely hate, because it ruins your reputation. But not only that, if you flake on someone on something you promised, you're watching yourself. Like your inner coach is watching you flake, and now they don't think that you are reliable. Yeah. And once you realize that you're not reliable, you can't trust yourself to do the things that you promise yourself, and that has a massive influence on your confidence, right?
It's so true, man. We know how you are with this. I think we spoke about this in another episode anyway, right?
If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. That's it. You know.
But mate, you're not a bad person if something comes up, honestly.
Jason, nothing comes up. There's no surprises, mate. So nothing comes up. You know, the trick is this.
Mate, is your house all right? It's burning down in the background. I said I'd record this podcast. I'll deal with that after.
If I said I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I tell you what, though. I think the reality of that is you need to be a real master at saying no, because a lot of people feel like they're letting down someone as soon as they say no about something. Well, you're in control of what you do, right? It's not, you know, you shouldn't feel bad just because something doesn't align with with what someone else wants, and B, you can say yes later, but you can't say no later. That's the way I see it, right? Exactly. So I'll just, if I'm not sure about something, I'll be like, I'm not sure I can say yes to that right now. I'd love to go. Or I'd even go in detail, like, I'd really love to go because I'd like to see you there and spend some time with you, and I love that restaurant as well, so it'd be perfect. I don't want to commit to it just yet because of A, B, and C, and I've got quite a lot on, and if I'm not in the mood for it on the day, the last thing I want to do is cancel. And people will respect you for that. And then on the day, you can be like, look, I was really hoping that I'd have the energy for it, and I do, so if you're still up for it, let's do it. Or I don't have the energy. I was right. I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I had said no because I really would be such bad company tonight if I joined you.
Yeah.
Or I feel like I'm letting you down. But one last thing that I want to say about habits before we turn this into like a 2-hour episode, because it's an interesting one, isn't it? Is I've got a theory that people are trying to follow habits now more than ever before. And I don't think it's just because everyone's talking about habits and that's the main reason. I think people are trying to bring discipline into their lives. And I think human beings are craving discipline because everything around them is about instant gratification. Yeah. Everything around them is about entitlement and about abundance, and you can get what you want whenever you want it. And the more social media rises and you can get whatever you want straight away, and it's like ding, notification, dopamine hit. The more I see this going on, the more I'm seeing people deliberately living a harder life, like deliberately having more type 2 fun in their life, sacrificing more, or wanting to try and put themselves through arduous things like a habit routine, rather than just waking up and being slobby and doing nothing, right? Because they are lacking discipline in their lives. It's just an observation I thought I'd share. Maybe you feel the same way.
100%. It's just one of those pendulum things, isn't it? It's like, if you're born with no money and your parents hate money and you've got no security, you then value money because you're like, I don't ever want to do that again. Whereas if you're born on a silver platter and you've got everything handed to you, those kids seek struggle. They want to go and live on the streets and go and do drugs and all that kind of stuff, right? It's like you seek what you feel like you're missing. And if people are missing direction and habit and routine because of the world of abundance that we're in right now and the instant gratification, they're going to seek that. And it's just another swing of the pendulum.
Such a good point. I've seen friends on either side of that spectrum, right? Like, I've got friends who have had an only child who they really spoiled a lot. They struggled to have a child for a long time, spoiled them a lot, and the kid had everything you could ever want growing up. Always had the best presents, always looked after the most, like totally cherished as like the prized child, the gift from God, right? And then boom, as soon as they're old enough, it was causing absolute havoc for the parents. The things they were getting up to, the illegal stuff they were doing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's a classic example of the swing of the pendulum there.
Definitely. Great note to end on, man. And if you've enjoyed this, let us know in the comments as well. There's not many comments going on, so I want some comments in the thing. Help us boost this podcast a little bit and get it out to more people. And if you want to hear us talk about anything, you can see how relaxed these conversations are. So let us know in the comments. And until then, take care. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll catch you on the next one. If you're enjoying these podcasts, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're really getting value from these, we'd really love it if you could let us know on our review page. We'll see you next week.